there's an even more extreme version of men losing their erotic agency that has culminated into the incel movement. Are you familiar with this?
Yes.
The involuntary celibates. And
Yeah, I'd rather not be aware of it, but you can't really avoid it.
It's a huge, it truly is a movement.
And if you're around intellectual, high-motive young men, you are going to run into language you can tell is coming out of some of this.
Right. And so, of course, there's been sexually frustrated men throughout history.
Yeah.
I think what makes this movement unique is three things. Number one is, whereas before, some of them, it was embarrassing, right, to not be able to win over a woman.
Yeah.
The incels take it as a badge, at the very least, and sometimes a badge of honor.
Yeah.
Number two is that, whereas before, they might attribute their lack of success to individual issues, but now it's taken a political and conspiratorial
Very
bent.
much.
That what they call the Chads, the handsome men, and the Stacys, the beautiful women, are in some sense conspiring.
Yeah.
The dating apps are sort of making markets too liquid.
Yes.
That there's a active conspiracy, like almost like 9/11.
Mm-hmm.
And the third one is the very fact that this is a movement to begin with. That there's a huge swath of American and I think maybe even global young men are involved in this circumstance. So what do you make of that? And do you see that as the further escalation of this loss of erotic power?
Yeah, the incel thing, look, I am not a native inhabitant of the online world. I only get it from talking to young men. Or reading Bronze Age Pervert.
Yeah, right,
and
right.
finding out that young men actually do talk about living in the longhouse, right? Which means there's something a little comic about it to me.
Oh yeah, for sure, yes.
But I think it deserves to be taken seriously because it hardens some young men in their sense that the war between the sexes is a real war.
Yeah, right.
And that's a terrible place to live, of course. That's an awful place to live. Now, young women have their own forms of this, but the incel thing, that's focused on men.
Right.
And it attracts a lot of very intelligent young men.
Oh, yes,
right?
of course.
So when I talk to young men who've been influenced by these things, I emphasize to them that when you're still intellectually young, one of the things you're very attracted to is being smart. And that's quite a corrupting motive sometimes. You have to help people get beyond the show-offiness of that. I think in the incel thing, there's a lot of that young man show-offiness, that being a tough guy thing. Right. I think that is in there. Now, anybody who's worked with professional philosophers knows that's a part just of academic philosophy, the tough guy thing, the make these hard arguments back and forth thing, often with very little attempt to enrich them with a bit more human experience. I find the incel thing, it's really at home in analytic philosophy in a funny way.
Really? Interesting.
Yes. Because it appeals to that combative instinct in a young man's intellect, and it makes him feel like he's on a side.
Right, I see.
I feel that. So I don't want to respond to it simply as a problem about the structure of erotic desire and of a lack of confidence in erotic agency. I think that's in there. But I think it's also important that it's part of being young men that they get attracted to extremist intellectual views that allow them to make arguments.
Right.
I think incels aren't that different from the kind of guys who, when I was in college, it wasn't incels, it was people who read Ayn Rand.
Right, yeah, or Nietzsche or something like that, right?
Yes.
Like they love extremist views that give them the power, give them the secret key to unlock everything. Right?
I see it all, that kind of thing.
And that's so interesting because the incels started off as a very philosophical, anthropological movement analyzing data science trends among dating apps and say, look, this is where the conspiracy comes from. The top 1% of males get all the females. And so you're right. It's highly intellectual movement
Very much.
that gives a sense of extreme political power. What I find super interesting about it is that the incels are squarely on the political right.
Yes.
They're they hate the woke, they hate the LGBTQ, they hate the feminist movements. But it's very interesting that they take on what I see to be a lot of the left's kind of intuitions.
They do.
In that they give a systematic analysis of the problem. Like, if you're not 6'2" and white and good looking, it's over for you, and like you should just go to Switzerland and get your face plastic surgery and changed. Which of course is lacks a lot of like individual agency, because it's giving a system level argument.
Yeah.
But also the fact that some of them, at least, take a lot of pride in their victimhood.
They sure do.
It's very much like the woke and the DEI, and so there's a very interesting mirror between these two rival political factions that hate each other. Yeah.
Yes, I'm afraid so. I mean, I just recently I've been reading Dostoevsky's Notes from Underground, and the underground man is like an original incel because he takes so much pride in his suffering. And he realizes my suffering is sort of self-inflicted, but he still has pride that he can inflict suffering on himself, which is a kind of Nietzschean point.
Right. The aesthetic ideal. Right?
Yes.
Right.
Yes. So there is some of that in there. So I don't want to go too far and simply de-eroticize what's attractive about the incel discourse. But I do also want to insist that it's not only about people's erotic lives. It's about a certain sense of identity, of you being in kind of the avant-garde of an intellectual elite. And that's why right and left come together. That temptation to be part of that avant-garde thing, that can be right or left. It doesn't code politically very clearly.
It's the marginalized that
very
seek these.
Much.
And that's such an interesting point about why they would take it as a badge of honor that they can't attract women, because it's a very weird thing to take pride in. But it's very much the Nietzschean aesthetic ideal that, like, at least I can make this statement, or at least,